Joining us now, Gary Aiken, one of 3 Republicans in Fairfax County, Virginia. Gary, great to have you.
Good morning, John. Thank you for having me on.
Okay, look, Gary, I love my disruptor segment, but here's what happens in Fairfax. I work in D.C., so I have to drive through it. Once in a while, I do my show there at Chad Peterson's office, downtown Fairfax. Beautiful little town, Fairfax City. But here's what happens. We do our election broadcast show in Virginia, and it doesn't matter who the candidate is, Ed Gillespie or Joe Blow, and the results are coming in, and the Republicans ahead, and then everybody says, wait, John. Wait until Fairfax comes in. It comes in at the end. Just wait, and the Democrat will win. And so 15 times in a row, Fairfax comes in, and the Democrat wins, and we all go home with a Democrat whatever. And you're running for supervisor in how do you win in Fairfax? There's no Republicans there.
There's a couple of Republicans here and there, and frankly, this is a blue district. Mason District is Fairfax County, inside the Beltway. We've had the same supervisor for 24 years, and our area of the county has been totally neglected. The infrastructure is in disrepair. There's rampant vacancy. There's big boxes that are empty. There's whole swaths of land that need to be developed that haven't been developed. And the way that I'm approaching this race is to be the creative problem solver. You call it disruptor, but I call it as a creative problem solver who's actually going to focus on the people in my district and bring concrete solutions that can improve the quality of life for people who are currently living in Mason District, and also to do things that will encourage people and businesses to want to move to Mason District. I think those are that core fiscal responsibility and pro-business agenda that Republicans are really in favor of. That message needs to be broadcast loud and clear, and so that's part of what I'm doing when I'm talking to voters every day. Now, am I running as the Republican in the race? Yes. I am the Republican in the race, but I need Democrats and independents to vote for me in order to win, because there just aren't enough Republicans in Mason District to win on the basis of Republicans alone.
Okay,
But,
I just got
but
you one.
When we do win, I think that we'll find that more people identify with the core messages that the Republican Party espouses, and they will find themselves agreeing with us. And maybe they won't become Republicans, but they will feel more comfortable voting that way.
All right, so you've already got one vote here on my show. Amy from Fairfax says, I live in Mason. I'm going to vote for Gary Aiken. So there you go. You got a vote.
That's
Plus
one.
your family. And then you're
9,999 more to go.
I know you got to get your wife. You got to get your wife to vote for you, Gary. That's the key. If your wife's not voting for you, I can tell you right now, your campaign's in big trouble. So, look, Fairfax, look, you're trying to run there and point out the fact you got an entrenched incumbent. You've got big box stores empty. You've got some blight. And so you want to get things done. Maybe you got a shot in this. Let me just switch gears a second. Trump 2020. How do we not lose Fairfax by 120,000?
I think the key for Republicans in Northern Virginia is, and this is going to sound trite, but we've got to reach across to communities that we don't normally talk to, and we've got to actually talk to them. And this is something that has frustrated me with our party here in Northern Virginia. We say we're going to do things, and we create plans to do them, and we don't necessarily follow through on those plans. And so that's part of what my campaign is doing, to rebuild the Republican Party in this part of Fairfax. This is not the last time that you'll hear from Gary Aiken, hopefully. That if I don't win this time, I'm going to continue to work in my community to show people that Republicans are reasonable people with good policy solutions that are based on principles that everyone can believe in, and that they ought to be Republicans. So I've gone to the unions to have interviews. I've gone to the mosques. I've gone to churches. I've gone to areas and communities in this race that Republicans really would write off in the past. But I'm not writing off anybody, because I believe that people in my district have been written off to some extent by the county writ large. And they deserve to know that somebody's going to fight for them. And if that person is a Republican, that will change their mind about Republicans. So, is it something that we can do in the next year or two? I don't know. But is it something we can do over the next 5 to 10 years if we really focus on it? I think the answer is yes, and that's what I'm committed to.
Gary, who's the Republican chairman of the Republican committee in Fairfax County?
Tim Hannigan is the Republican chairman, and I served as treasurer of the Republican Party in Fairfax for 3 years, first under Matt Ames and then under Tim Hannigan, and resigned just to focus on this race. But I think the Republican Party has made some good steps in terms of organization, in terms of getting back on the right side of the financial ledger. I think they're doing the right things, but it's one of those things where it takes time. And also, the problem in Northern Virginia is a little bit of a psychological problem too. That when I go door to door and I talk to Republicans and I say, "Hey, you're a solid Republican. Can I put a sign in your yard?" Well, no, I don't want my neighbors to know. And I say, but I've talked to a lot of your neighbors, your Democrat and independent neighbors, and they're not going to bite your head off. But people see the national news, and they see Facebook and they see Twitter and all that kind of stuff, and Republicans in Northern Virginia are very sensitive about, if I come out for Trump or if I come out as a Republican, that my neighbors are going to bite my head off and call me a racist. And we've got people like me who are in leadership positions need to buck people up and say, "Hey, don't shy away from what you believe in. Don't shy away from these principles that have made America the place it is today. We've got to continue to fight for it, and we've got to continue to fight for it because it's what's good for the whole country, and it's what's good for Fairfax County, and it's what's good for Mason District."
We're with Gary Aiken, running for supervisor.
I'm part cheerleader and part supervisor, and I'm trying to buck everybody up and say, "Hey, we've got a real shot in this if everybody gets out there and votes for change."
We're with Gary Aiken. He's running for supervisor, Fairfax County. He's a Republican. There's a very heavy blue district. What Gary Aiken is saying here is that we have a failure to communicate, it seems like. Now, this reminds me, Gary, of a famous scene from a famous movie. You probably remember it if you're as old as me or near there. Cool Hand Luke, Paul Newman, and we have that clip right now. Here's the new mantra for Fairfax County Republicans.
What we've got here is failure to communicate. Some men you just can't reach. So you get what we had here last week, which is the way he wants it. Well, he gets it. And I don't like it any more than you, man.
So what you've got to...
I remember, John, I remember that more from... this is showing my age, but I remember that more as the introduction to Civil War by Guns N' Roses, and I think we are on the cusp of starting a communication that reaches across. And what I will say is that when I'm at farmers markets and when I'm talking to minorities, when I'm talking to Spanish-speaking Americans, when I'm talking to Muslim Americans, people who have come from abroad and they come to the United States, and they have the values that a lot of that the Republican Party espouses, conservative Republican values, they also understand the difference between socialism. In many cases, if they came from Eastern Europe or they came from South America, they understand that, what socialism can do to a country, and they're not in favor of that. So I think those messages of economic freedom and personal responsibility and freedom of religion to practice your religion, and the idea that we need to keep people safe so that they can do those things. Those are all messages that resonate with people, and they're all messages that are in my platform.
All right, Gary.
Our message is the right message. I think you're right. We need to get out there and we need to talk to people.
Well, you know what? Talking to people can solve a lot of problems because otherwise you have, as we just played in that Cool Hand Luke clip, Gary Aiken, we have a failure to communicate. That's what's going on right now in Northern Virginia, along with the intimidation of people afraid to put a sign up even for you. You seem like a pretty nice guy. Even afraid to put a sign up lest they be tagged as a racist. Now, I just got through 6 weeks of baseball travel with my son, going around to various cities. Now, of course, we're in the South, right? Florida, South Carolina, North Carolina. I forget where else we went, Fort Myers, and Virginia, Southwest Virginia. But we were also in Northern Virginia. But every game that I came to, I put on my Make America Great Again hat. Got two hats. One red, one white. I'd switch them off, every day. Also, a couple times went in my Trump Make America Great Again shirt. And it's amazing, Gary. It is amazing. Nobody ever came up to me and said, ew, you're racist. But I probably had about 100 people come up to me, 100 at least, or more, over 100, who would come up to me and whisper and say, hey, I'm for Trump too. Or, hey, yeah, go Trump. Or, love your hat. But like they'd come up and whisper it to me. This must have been 100 people over 6 weeks. Over 100. No doubt.
John, that's my experience too at farmers markets and knocking doors is that people will come up and I say, well, they say, which party are you with? And I say, well, I'm the Republican nominee. And they say, thank God that there's a Republican in this race. And the thing that we've got to do then is say, all right, what will you do to help us win? Because like you said, it seems like there's 3 Republicans in Northern Virginia, but the reality is there's lots of Republicans in Northern Virginia, and we need to motivate those people to come out and volunteer, to phone bank, to knock doors with us, to repost things on social media, to donate money, and so Republicans have sort of in Northern Virginia and moderates who lean Republican have for whatever reason, because, and I think it's, partially because we've just been losing a lot, that people just, once you've been losing a lot, you get into that mentality, that self-defeatist mentality. And what I want to do, what I've done my whole career is to look at problems like that and find a way to turn things around. What were we doing at the University of Maryland to make people safe? People were walking around campus in dark areas, and they didn't know how to solve that problem. We got together and we said, look, here's a solution. Let's put blue light cameras all over campus so that women don't have to feel like they're in dark areas at night and they have one button to push to call the campus police.
Right.
There was nobody representing part-time MBA students at GW, George Washington University, where I got my MBA. And we said, hey, let's put together a group that will forward the interests of those people. And that's what a great, not a great leader, but I don't want to call myself a great leader, but that's what a leader does. A leader goes out and says, and sparks people to action. And that's what I'm trying to do, is to get out there and say, look, we need to take action to create a situation where people will feel comfortable to go out and vote, where people will feel comfortable to get involved in the Republican Party more, and frankly, also create the need for change on the Board of Supervisors. And we haven't talked anything about Fairfax County and the Board of Supervisors and the economic problems in Fairfax writ large. But
well, I got to roll, buddy. I got to roll. I'm out of time. I want to thank you for being with us, Gary Aiken. Gary, people want more info. What's your website?
GaryAiken.org. That's the way to go.
GaryAiken.org. Go to GaryAiken.org. John Fredericks Radio Network, Trucking the Truth. Thanks for being with us live today, Florence, South Carolina. We'll be in Virginia tomorrow, and then at the border, following me, fighting Joe Morrissey Show. Hey, this is Must Listen Radio, man. You got to tune in, Joe. 100.5 FM, WJFN, Richmond, Goochland. Oh, you're not in the area? No worries. WJFNradio.com. Get it on your phone. Joe Morrissey coming up. Loaded for bear. Hey, by the way, he's going to the state senate where we're going to turn his office into a studio. Life is good in Joe Morrissey world. We'll see you tomorrow. Have a great day.